Hello, clearly I have a bit of news for you. You can tell by the title of this video, I am pregnant. I'm so excited. Actually, I'm going to do that again. I am pregnant. Yay! There's no whispering about it. I am now halfway through pregnancy and I am so excited to share a little bit about this journey and just to share the news and have it out there. There's been a few weeks where I haven't been able to share anything on here, and that wasn't due to this necessarily. I ended up getting sick. My daughter got from daycare, she had like sicknesses, she had tonsillitis, chest infection, ear infection. It was horrible for her. And eventually I then caught it, as well as did my partner, Mario. And yeah, I ended up with bronchitis for 3 weeks. So not the best time. And being pregnant as well, it really didn't feel that amazing. So I'm still talking, I'm just readjusting here. Here is a little bump view for you. So this is week 20. Yeah, it'll be 21 weeks in a day or so. And oh my gosh, I've just shared it on social media last week, I think, on my Instagram and on other platforms like TikTok. And yeah, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. This just felt like such a long and at times really upsetting journey. I know I shared my previous pregnancy, so I wanted to do a little video on here and share kind of the updates, and probably mostly selfishly because I like looking back on those videos and sort of documenting that time. It's kind of interesting for me to look back and see what symptoms I was sharing and things during that pregnancy. So my daughter, Navy, will be 3 in December. So almost 3 years ago that I gave birth to her, which is wild. Wild in the sense that I feel like it's gone fast, but then in other ways it feels frustratingly slow, which I'll get into. And yeah, it really has felt like life before her was so different. I had her at the end of the pandemic, and I think this pregnancy will feel quite different. Actually, the birth process will feel quite different and after birth as well, postpartum, because after I gave birth to her, our state was still completely locked down for a few months, and my parents couldn't, for example, come and meet her because they couldn't enter the state. They live interstate. And we didn't really go anywhere or do anything except doctor's appointments. And so I think it'll just be interesting this time to see how that time period will be. And one day looking back over this video and the other and comparing, I think it'll be an interesting little review of life and how those times were so different. But yeah, either way, let's kind of get stuck into talking about that pregnancy process. And I guess as a bit of a trigger warning or a sensitivity warning, we have experienced some ups and downs, and I guess maybe recording this and sharing this will not only hopefully allow other women who are going through something similar, or even who are pregnant and are feeling a bit lost and alone and isolated, because can be a really isolating time. Maybe by sharing this, you'll feel a little bit less alone, because I know that watching some videos of other women's pregnancy journals and things on YouTube really helped me, particularly during that first pregnancy. And, maybe I'll go into some pregnancy style things, which I found very helpful as well. Even this time, I've watched a few videos on pregnancy style ideas, because I think things have really changed in that aspect. from my previous pregnancy, because there's a lot more belly out situation this time, and that's different. Definitely different. I'm not sure how I feel about the belly out thing. I mean, I could wear these pants, for example, like low, and this is kind of the trend at the moment, to have the belly out. But honestly, I don't know. At least at the moment, my belly button isn't popping out, which happened last time, but I'm still not really sure how I feel about that. And maybe I'll experiment a bit in summertime, but so far we're covering because I feel a lot more comfortable that way. But yeah, okay. So to backtrack, and I'll give you a bit of context of what we've gone through in the last 3 years. Essentially, I had Navy in the December 2021. There's a whole video on how the birth went down, because the birth experience was unique, to say the least. Apparently, the way that I gave birth is how less than 3% women give birth in that they know of, at least in Australia. But just to quickly recap, and this might pique your interest to go and check out that video, because we talk at length about what the experience was like, and my partner was there in that video telling his side of the story too, about what it was like for him, because it was, oh my gosh. So I gave birth at home by accident. I was hypnobirthing, which is like a form of meditation. We'd done a course on it beforehand, and throughout the labor, I was silent. I could not speak. I was listening to the meditation tracks, and I was like just going through the meditation, breathing, and I was kind of really in my own head, and that I think worked for me, particularly with handling the discomfort or pain. Because it was my first birth as well, I had no context as to how painful it was going to get. So I think the whole time I was thinking, it could get worse, it could get worse, it could get worse. Like, suck it up, just breathe through it. Like, yeah. So I was silent for that entire labor. And it wasn't until Mario rang the midwife again, and she was like, oh, maybe you should come in. And I saw on his phone that he Googled how long it would take for us to drive into the birth center, given that I'd started laboring at like 10 o'clock or 12 o'clock at night, and then it was 7 a.m. or 6 something, 7 a.m. probably. And the traffic was already way more than we had expected. And it was saying it was going to take us like 45 minutes or an hour to get there. And I remember being like, seeing that on his phone and being like, oh. And at which point I said out loud, which I hadn't thought prior, that I feel the urge to push all of a sudden. And the midwife was like, oh, get in the car, like, go. And so Murray ran out, put the last things in the car, my water broke, and I started to deliver in our bedroom. So it was just the two of us, no midwife, no one else helping. He got on the phone to emergency services, and they talked us through giving birth. And he also had on the other phone the midwife listening in as well. And yeah, it was like, oh, I'm really hoping this time around not to give birth at home by accident, alone like that. It was so frightening, really. And I was the whole time trying to think, like, stay positive, I can feel him moving, like, everything's good, it's all good, like. And then Mario was like, I can see what turned out to be toes. So our baby ended up being a surprise breech birth. We didn't know. We're home alone. Like, obviously, usually with breech births, they just like rush. If they find out, they rush you up to the hospital. If you're from the birth center, or they rush you into emergency and cut you open, and it's an emergency C-section. Totally different to our plan. Totally different birth experience. So because the risks are so high, which I hadn't really read too much about. I know Mario had, so I think you could hear the panic in the voice of the emergency services phone call. And yeah, I just tried to stay positive the whole way through. So he was describing what he could see on the phone to the emergency services. Paramedics were on call, they were coming, and I by then could speak, and I was like, do I push? Do I stop? And we were kind of talking it through and working it out. And yeah, that was how I gave birth. Mario wasn't able to help pull it, or catch the baby or anything. It was we had to be hands off because of the risks. And yeah, it wasn't until she came out, placenta came out straight away, and unfortunately she wasn't breathing, which was really frightening. And it's an image that has stayed with me ever since. And I was just, again, trying to stay really positive because I thought I'd felt her kicking just before, she's going to be fine. And Mario was trying to revive her and get her breathing, and she was just sloppy, and it was horrible, and it felt like it was going forever, and I was like, come on, Navy, it's okay, you're with us, Navy, blah, blah, blah. And then she started to cry and start breathing. And then just then we heard someone at the door, and we'd heard the sirens. Someone yelled at the door. The door was wide open, the front door, and we were just inside. The paramedics rushed in, and they came in with towels, and they revived her even more. And the Phoenix was gone, everything, she was cleaned off, popped on me. I got up onto the bed and held her and I don't know if I tried to feed, but held her for a minute. Yeah, I think we did try to breastfeed. And then they were jump in the shower, rinse off because you're not going to have time for a while, and we'll take you in the ambulance down to the family birth center to get checked over and everything, which we did, and everything was fine. Had one suture, and everything was all good, and it was a miracle, and it was amazing that she survived and I survived. So the longer story of this is up on the channel anyway, but that is the slightly long recap. It was dramatic. It was scary. We were so lucky, honestly. We were so lucky. And everything was good, and she's been an amazing little girl. She's cheeky, she has a lot of attitude and personality and sassiness, but she's really good, super articulate, fun, and it's been amazing to watch her grow in the last almost 3 years. And she's amazing. Honestly, I'm so grateful for her. I'm so lucky. And then after I had her, I breastfed for a year. I think I got my period back in about August of that year, so 8 months later. So we were sort of not trying prior to that, because I'd heard that you can fall pregnant if you, even if you don't have your period back yet and you're breastfeeding. But we were more seriously trying, I guess, or aiming to have another baby as soon as possible, because I wanted them to be close together. Because at that point I was 38? Yeah, I'm 40 now, and I'm 41 in a few days. So I wanted them to be close together, knowing that the risks increase as you get older, your egg count drops off, all of those things, and yeah, that was just the main overriding thing. I just wanted them to be close in age as much as possible. So we kept trying. I think by the beginning of, or after a while, my friend was like, you should see the acupuncturist, which I thought, oh gosh, yeah, why didn't I think of that? Because I'd seen an acupuncturist at the end of my pregnancy to help. And I thought that was really, really good. So I started seeing acupuncturist, and then that was at the beginning of last year. So I had a long time by then, that it felt like nothing was happening, and every period was okay, just have to wait it out. And with Navy, I think we only tried for 3 months before we fell pregnant with her, so I didn't have a long time to keep having periods and being sad that I didn't feel pregnant each month. But this time felt like a longer time, and obviously it's still like every experience is going to be different. But there are women who go through, or people that go through so long not being able to fall pregnant, and it's hard to stay positive when that's the thing that you want and that you want it as soon as possible, and you're doing all the things that you're supposed to, or the main thing that you're supposed to, and tracking everything every day, taking your temperature before you move in the morning, tracking everything, taking all of your vitamins, and eating well. And for me, I was like on a low tox diet all that time, so no coffee, no alcohol, all of those things, like just trying my hardest to make sure everything worked, not touching like receipts from the supermarkets and stuff because the ink can, like whatever it is, like no nail polish, like non-toxic products for beauty, like every single thing that I had heard of to try, I was doing that all of that time. And yeah, I guess like it's still every time you get a period and you don't have a baby, and like it's hard. Each month it's quite hard to face that, even if it's just for a day or so, and then you go, all right, well we know what to do, like try again, and we know, yeah, you do the ovulation tracking, everything. But yeah, so eventually, I think it was probably about January or February of last year, I went and saw the acupuncturist, and he suggested a bunch of things like having more like, it's like the Chinese clock of food. I don't know how to describe that, but it was like, so in the morning you had your main meal. So he was getting me to have like salmon or steak with like sauteed greens, egg, potato, like all kinds of things in the morning for breakfast, which was so weird. But yeah, that's one thing that they recommend, or congee, which isn't my favorite, not gonna lie. But yeah, all of that kind of thing, and then having like smaller meals throughout the day. So I switched to doing that. Whatever else he recommended, like not having bare feet on the tiles, making sure like belly is always covered so this area is always warm, having like bone broth every day instead of coffees and stuff. Yeah, I just did all of the things. And last year we fell pregnant in, I think, March, it must have been, which was amazing. Like I was so excited, and yeah, we found out we were having a girl, and then I lost my auntie. And we went back home to Adelaide to say goodbye for the funeral and to see my family. And I'd had a cold around that time for a couple of weeks, and so the symptoms of like nausea and everything kind of felt less obvious, maybe. Anyway, so we went and we said goodbye to my auntie, and yeah, we shared the news with family that we were having a girl, we knew, and then I came home, and we had a dinner that night with friends, and I didn't feel well, but so I didn't really eat at the restaurant, and I noticed when I went to the bathroom there was like a blood spot, but I'd heard that can happen, and by then I was just about 13 weeks, and I was like, that's weird, but I'm sure it's fine. And then we went to bed, woke up the next morning, and I was like, Maria, I can feel like fluids. And I looked down, and there was blood, and there was fluids in my underwear. And yeah, I got up to go to the bathroom, and more came out, and then like just to walk around the bed to where the ensuite is, there was like a lot of liquid, and I was saying to Mario, like, this isn't me peeing, this is just liquid coming out, which I knew at the point was the water breaking. And yeah, I went to the bathroom and there was blood, and so we went to the closest hospital, to emergency, and they sat me down, like they just said, like, sit down and wait. And this was like on a Sunday morning, and sit down and wait. And it was like full of people who were sick and, injured or whatever. It was very busy there, and they didn't come and get me or anything, and I was just sitting there bleeding. And he went and spoke to them and said, like, she's just sitting here bleeding all over everything, basically. And they were like, well, there's nothing we can do for you. We'll both basically give you a sonogram, if anything, but we can't see to you for a while. And so I got in the bathroom, and I got like massive clots came out, and they were still like, and he caught one of them in like the stuff and was like, look, like, this is happening, and they were still like, we can't do anything for you. And they were like, seeing people who were obviously drunk and had injuries overnight or whatever, that just was what it looked like. But yeah, they didn't have anything they couldn't help me, they said. So we went then to the hospital next to the family birth centre, and they, like, the women's hospital, and they saw me straight away at emergency, and the lady was like, do you want to sit down? And I was like, I can't. And she took me straight in. She was like, you're obviously bleeding. Took me straight in to check. And she was like, okay. And they took me straight then into a room, and saw a doctor straight away. And then as soon as they could, they brought in sonography and had a look, and they ended up getting, it was a Sunday, so they ended up getting a specialist to come in when they could, to have a look as well. But there was nothing. Like, I knew what the scans were supposed to look like, and our first scan was meant to be like 2 days later or the next day. So we hadn't had any yet. And yeah, there was nothing there. Where should have, I know from the previous scan what that would have been like and what should have looked like. But they couldn't see anything. And then they basically there was an emergency in the hospital, and it sounded like, they didn't tell me the details, but it sounded like a delivery that went wrong, whatever happened. And by then I think I'd gotten there around 10:30, or no, 11 o'clock or something in the morning. And because of what happened with this emergency, and they only had one operating room open on the Sunday, excuse me, I wasn't able to be looked at until, I think it was 10 p.m. So I was just there in the room, bleeding, and they started to realize, because they were collecting, and they were starting to realize, like, how much blood I was losing. And so, like, I think, for example, when I had my birth with Navy, the amount of blood that I lost this time was more than double that. So I was losing way too much blood. It wasn't like it was like a lot. And they got to a point where they had to give me some medicine to stop the blood loss, because they were worrying that I was just losing way too much blood, like more than twice the normal amount, and that's not including what I'd lost before I got there. But yeah, because I couldn't get in to have the DNC until the emergency room, operating room had been cleared, I was just waiting, and It was horrible. Everyone was so lovely, but it was like the worst day ever. And it was just really hard to think of like what it all meant. And even just going into having the D&C when I eventually got in there, it was like just knowing that when I came out, there wasn't going to be a baby. So we weren't going to have what we had pictured. You know, she was due 2 days after Navy's birthday or something. So Navy would have been turning 2 as I was giving birth to another baby, and they would have been so close and growing up together, and with the 2 years apart, and just even by then, like 13 weeks, we had already found out the gender, and we knew when it was a girl, we knew that her name would be Rio, because that was the other girl's name we'd picked. And just knowing that when I woke up after having the D&C, all of that was going to be gone was a really hard one to face. But everyone at the hospital was lovely. And that night, I stayed on the ward so they could watch me and everything. And Mario came the next morning again to pick me up. And I just remember I barely slept. It was just so hard to face. It was really, like, loss is just never easy, but I'm so sorry if you've gone through this or you know anyone who has. I wasn't sure I was going to talk about this. This video was meant to be about my pregnancy, but I guess it's important to share the journey. And honestly, I struggled with the loss for a long time. I really did. Gosh, my makeup was all coming off on my hands. I struggled with the loss, and in the end, I went and saw a counsellor this year on the recommendation from my GP. And I was just dealing with a lot of grief. And, breaking up with the idea of them being born 2 years apart and all of that stuff. And not actually ever having our Rio with us. And it was just, grief is really hard. And I know grief is love, and so if you are experiencing loss like this, or infertility, or anything, secondary infertility, please know that you're not alone, and there's nothing that you could have done. They just said it was a chromosomal disorder. They don't check. Unless you've had 3 miscarriages, they don't actually check what the cause might have been. But either way, there was nothing I could have done, they said. And just knowing that just wasn't meant to be, it wasn't the right body or whatever, I think that kind of helped, because I wouldn't want to bring a child into the world who has something like that as something to face for the rest of their life. I think in some ways we were lucky that we didn't have to make a choice to terminate it or anything like that. It wasn't something that we had to think about, so I'm glad I didn't have to process what that would have been. But the idea, I don't even know what I'm saying, but the idea of having a child who has a disadvantage like that from the get-go, whatever that might look like, is just hard anyway. This is turning out to be quite long. Anyway, yes, so I saw a counsellor, and then we were sort of still trying from then onwards, because like the doctors, when they came saw me the next morning before I was let to go home, they were like, you might fall pregnant in the first 3 months because that happens most of the time after you've had the D&C, everything's like cleaned out or whatever. And so I was like, cool, let's try for that and see how it goes. And I was really positive. So that was in June. Yeah, I think about June. And by the beginning of this year, there's still nothing. Didn't have any luck. I went back to see the acupuncturist, and first he treated me for grief, and I was seeing a counselor at the same time. And I think that there was just a lot that I was holding on to because I struggled. Last year was hard. Yeah, and yeah, I think that was helpful for me. So the acupuncture, I think, felt like it cleared things, and it helped like to maybe regulate my periods, as well as we were trying to work out like when the right dates were. And by then I had already gone straight into after the miscarriage, I went straight into tracking everything again because I was trying to fall pregnant again straight away. And oh god, when it's so many months of doing that, after so many months of doing that, it's just, yeah, that's not an easy thing. So I'm really sorry if you've gone through it or you are going through it. But I think, yeah, the acupuncturist really helped me, as well as seeing a counselor. And I did all the things as well that he'd recommended, the acupuncturist had recommended. So all of the diet things, wearing slippers and, all that type of thing, that we're staying like warm. Not drinking cold drinks, ice cream or anything. Yeah, all of these things. Anyway, it took until April before we had a pregnancy test again. Oh wait, no, I've skipped something. We did have another loss, but I think it was a chemical miscarriage. So that was in around November, December from memory, that year. But like it would have only been really a few weeks, I guess, 6 or 7 weeks. By the time I tested and saw a positive test at home, I went to have the blood test with the GP, and they were like, there's not enough to say that this is, you're not pregnant anymore. So we lost it again. And I think because I was like less down the path for that one, I didn't grieve as heavily. And I think, I guess, well, I'll get into it in a bit, but then I fell pregnant again in April this year, which is amazing. And I think that's the thing, is like, it took me a long time to really feel like I was connected to this, because I was so anxious. And on one hand, there was no point in worrying because I hadn't worried with my previous pregnancy, and there was nothing I could do. It was out of my control. So I kind of thought the same thing, as like, just stay positive as much as possible. I saw the acupuncturist once a week, and I ended up, through the first trimester, not like exercising and stuff, which was very frustrating. But they were like, given the risks that you've had, or given the losses that you've had, we think it's safer just to leave it and wait until the second trimester to do any exercise stuff. Anyway, yeah, so first trimester, I had all these symptoms. I was just nauseous, food tasted disgusting, I didn't want to eat half of the things, everything smelled so strong, I was so tired, lethargic. Obviously I have a toddler as well, so trying to keep up with her and keep up with like my life, and trying to just do things when all I wanted to do was lie down and sleep and rest on the couch, and try not to throw up. It was just the time. But I'm very glad that now I'm 20 something weeks, because it was very hard. And I'm just feeling very, very, very grateful to be here now, we found out, we did a dating scan this time to make sure that we knew like the dates, and that everything seemed good. We had our next scan, and oh, I have a little kick. Had our next scan, and that was perfect, and that was so reassuring. It was like the scans that we'd had with Navy. So that was like, we didn't get to have scans with the previous, with Rio. So yeah, it was just, when I finally had that first scan, or both of the first ones, I guess, I just cried. Like, while we were there, I was just crying so much with the relief to hear that everything was growing really well. And yeah, every time I heard from the doctors to say like the blood test levels great, everything's looking good, it was just more and more reassuring. And then for the anatomy scan, which we just had the other week, that was just, oh my gosh, so reassuring and like just pleasant to see that at like 19 weeks or whatever it was, that everything is going so good. I feel so relieved and honestly excited. And to feel the kicks, I started feeling kicks at 15 weeks, which is so early, but turns out the placenta is on the back this time, anterior, as opposed to on the front here, which I had with Navy. So I feel the kicks a lot more this time around. And yeah, like I've been feeling them all the time, which is so good. And in the scans, you can see the baby's so active that, yeah, all of that is just so reassuring. So lovely to hear the heartbeat, everything. And I'm still nauseous all the time, or I have like reflux, but I haven't really been throwing up. My energy levels are a bit better. Other than the 3 weeks of bronchitis, I've been feeling so much better. I do have the pelvic separation that I had last time, which I think last time got to about 3 or 4 centimeters. So I can feel that relaxin hormone is quite strong already. I think it was like 7 or 8 weeks I felt it, and now it's feeling much stronger. So I have to be quite gentle when I'm doing my Pilates. I've gone back to doing Pilates a few times a week, and when I'm going for walks, which I'm not doing as much as I would normally, and I'm not running, which is such a shame because I was on a really good like run workout routine just before I fell pregnant, and I was really enjoying that. You know what, I'm gonna have to just get back into that later once I've had the baby and yeah, feel good again. And I know that that's something that makes me feel good. So yeah, for now, I'm just really glad to be doing Pilates on the reformer machines, which I didn't do last time with Navy. I didn't really do anything except some yoga at home. So this is like, yeah, it's actually feeling really good, and I have to get ready to go to class soon if I make it today. But yeah, I just honestly had the like, I'm just feeling so good now in terms of like the kicks, feeling really, really good, seeing the scans being really reassuring, still feeling nauseous, still feeling tired, not always sleeping. I started sleeping on my side at 15 weeks, and then I realized, I think it's 28 weeks that they say that you have to start sleeping on your side, but whatever, I'm in that routine now. And sometimes like my hips really ache when I'm lying on my side overnight, so sometimes sleep is just not happening and I have insomnia, but that's why I'm reading lots of books. Just giving me more reading time, which I know when the baby is due next year, I'm not going to have as much time to read initially. But yeah, so that is where I'm at. I'm sure there's many other things I could talk about, but this video is so, so long, and I just want to share that positive side at the end because, God, it has felt like a real journey, and there has been ups and downs and really low lows and feeling really horrible and then feeling positive still at the same time, all the while having the best time with my daughter Navy, who is so fun and funny, and I love playing with her and hanging out with her and reading her stories and giggling and carrying on and being silly and all of these things. So I think like for all of the lows, every day there were these amazing things happening with her, and that has like kept me like up more, in a positive way. So I just I hope that this finds people that might need it, and maybe it makes you feel more hopeful. I wouldn't wish that experience of loss on anyone, obviously. It's horrible, and it's okay for you to be upset and for you to process all of those emotions. And when you need it, ask for help and share with people, because I ended up sharing on social media about the loss, and the number of women who reached out to me and had said that they had never shared, but that they'd gone through it and now they were going to share with friends and family, and just women who said that they'd felt it alone when they'd gone through that experience. And it just happens to so many people, and it's horrible, but you're not alone, and there was nothing you could do. And like, please don't feel guilty or beat yourself up about it and then feel sad that you're not more positive and all of those things. Like, it's really hard, and I feel so glad to be on the flip side of this, at least now, and feeling positive and excited for this baby to come in January. So thank you for watching. If you've gotten all the way to the end, you're amazing. I love you for watching this, and I'm just so grateful for your support. My heart goes out to anyone who experiences infertility or secondary infertility or loss or anything. Like, I just thank you for watching and being part of this journey with me. Next, I'm going to have to embrace sharing some maternity style. This little linen outfit I ended up buying in black as well as in blue. It also comes in white, and it's just from Target. I've been trying to find some like more affordable things to share, and I've been buying some, like, not secondhand, or some of them are secondhand, but pieces from people that they might have worn once or whatever, through Depop, and that's been really good as well. I've gotten some beautiful finds that were at a fraction of the cost, because I might want to wear things again afterwards, and I'm not necessarily buying maternity stuff, but the stuff that I wore last time I was pregnant, I did not want to wear again, so I basically gave most of it away. And I do have like a few things, but I'm like, it's a funny thing that you're just like, oh, I don't want to even see this. I don't want, like, just didn't want to go near some of those things. So yeah, I've just added a few pieces that I think should be versatile and I should be able to wear again, should I want to. But yeah, I'm going to go into all of that in another video. Thank you very much for watching. My heart is with you. I am so grateful to be in this position and to be able to share this, and I hope that this reaches the right people. Thank you, and I can't wait to share more of this journey. I don't even know if I said that my name is Janelle. If you've never watched the channel before, I will be sharing more on my Instagram and on my other platforms. So, and I've still got to write some more blog posts. I haven't even written any this year, but I have been a blogger and a content creator for so many years now. Inspiring Wit is my blog name, and you will find me under Inspiring Wit on Instagram. I think you actually find me under my full name, Janelle Whitty, on TikTok, but all of that is linked below, and you can find some of the other pregnancy videos on my channel as well, up probably here. Thank you again. Enough from me.